Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I had the pleasure of being invited by Monorvia down to their nursery in Cairo, Georgia. And y'all, it was a feast for sore eyes. I took some footage and I will share in this video. But this was just the display to meet us of things that they grow here. They had them arranged according to different trends. And there are three main trends going on right now. One is called relaxation and socializing type. And this is more of the laid back, lush lifestyle where people are enjoying their outside space more, and so there's a lot more tropicals and big foliage and bright colors, hence all the Bougainvillea and the Mandevillas. And then I found out that they have patents on many Hucheras that are heat and cold tolerant. They are crossbred between a type from Florida and a type from Canada, which makes them tolerant across many zones. And y'all, look at these colors. Look at these colors. They're just absolutely darling. I can so see this around a patio. They also have a lot of astilbes. So for those who have a shade garden, and these can tolerate a little more sun than typical. And then there is this chartreuse color of Hucheras as well. So one of the things that's about this relaxation zone is just the link to the tropics. It's almost like you're going on vacation in your own yard, and it is known primarily for just the large foliage. Look at this colocasia. It's called Waikiki. Look at that. Variegation has that nice burgundy on it. I also love this Huchera here. It's called Red Lightning Huchera. And then look at this Bougainvillea with the variegated leaves. Cannas. And Hibiscus. Now, some of the display has been torn apart because they allowed people to pick what their favorite plants were, and you got to take them home, even if it was a topiary or a boxwood or a big evergreen, because most of us drove. And those who didn't drive, they're going to make arrangements to ship their plants to them to their home. Yeah, so let's take a look and I'll show you some of the rest of what's here. There are different grasses, sedges, ferns. Isn't that beautiful? I love the wispy texture. We were able to meet the buyer for this region of the country, the CEO of the company, social media manager, their PR person, the photographer, just a whole bunch of different people who are craftsmen in their different region of the country, of the company rather. Instead of calling their employees, they're called craftsmen, and they're giving a lot of responsibility for the particular area that they work. They're a Six Sigma company, so they go a lot on efficiency and just best practices. So they had a lot of hydrangeas. Look at the stem on this hydrangea. This is a black stem. This one is called Blue Enchantress. It blooms true blue, and it's a macrophylla that does need some shade. You can see it's over 80 degrees today, and so this is wilting a little bit, needs some water. The next area that we've crossed into is called the Victorian era. There seems to be this nod back to the gardens of the Victorian with the soft pink and peaches and purples and blues and whites. And that's what you get with this area. Now there's some things that are still tropical, like a Plumbago, but you have the whites and the magnolias and the astilbes and the sages, Dianthus, agapanthus, and some other plants as well. Another plant that I really loved is this grass right here that has these little blue flowers. Let me see if I can find a name for you. I think someone took the one that had the name on it. These are not all tagged for store yet, so different ferns again. This is one of what I chose. And I'm loving that. They do a lot of houseplants as well. So they had these huge fiddly fig. I think someone took the biggest one. But they had these rubber plants. Look at these, how gorgeous they are. ZZ plants. They're coming out later this year with a monstera. That's the Thai monstera, which is a variegated leaf. More house plants. Aren't they pretty, y'all? And then this was the Garden of Abundance. And this, I think, was probably my favorite one because it had all the warm colors. And not only did it have all the warm colors, but it featured edibles. And the Garden of Abundance is where people who have small space grow food amongst their flowers. So not only are you feeding the pollinators, but you're also providing beautiful edibles for yourself so that you can eat. They had all kinds of conifers because, you know, one of Monorvia's biggest industry is conifer. Look, all as far as the eyes can see are conifers. And then there's a whole nother boxwood. This nursery is over 800 acres. Currently, they have over 250 farmed out. And just in boxwoods alone is 6 acres. Hydrangeas is another 6 acres. So just to give you an idea of the magnitude of what's grown here and how much is being grown. They have a whole bunch of different roses. And they have their roses are hardy and disease resistance here in the south. They are bred particularly for southern regions, but they do well in the other areas as well. They had some vitex trees, some more Camiparis, agapanthuses, and these roses. These are some of the ones that I was telling you about. They're called their Nitty Gritty series, and then they also have another series called Grits and Grace. And they have a lot of coneflowers. There's this new coneflower that they have. Look at it, y'all. It's got Fresco, Apricot, and it's got a lot of purples and oranges. Another thing that I loved that they had today was this purple sedum. And that purple sedum, I mean, I've not really seen many of that kind before. So lovely, lovely, lovely. I have other footage from when we took the tour, and I'll take that footage and I'll do some voiceover and show you some things that we did along the way today. One of the first stops on our tour was to see the art of topiary making. This is a 4-year process. I was absolutely flabbergasted to learn that it actually took 4 years. This is the second stage of the topiary making. This is our topiary master craftsman, Raul. He is over all the topiaries at the Cairo, Georgia site. He has a team that works with him. Every topiary that leaves there has his signature touch. So they start with the saplings on the left, and then once it's established, it's potted up to the next size pot, which is a gallon pot. Then it stays in the gallon for a while, and then it's finally potted up to the size pot that it's going to leave the nursery in, and it stays in that size for the remainder of time. Now what they do is they hand select each and every emerald, colonnade, holly that makes it into a topiary. If it has bald spots in certain things, they may make it a pom-pom or a double pom-pom or the double ball topiary. But in order to be a spiral, you have to be nice and full all the way through so that they can cut the serpentine shape into it. All of this is done by hand, and the ladies and gentlemen that work with him are hand trained by Raoul in order to give the same quality to all the topiaries. What he explained to me is they like to top off at about 5.5 feet to leave the actual nursery. However, it sometimes is larger to leave the nursery than that particular size. Tools that are used are basic pruners as well as loppers. The nice big scissors looking loppers are all they use to create these topiaries. I often saw them in the store and was kind of a little taken aback by the price, but after hearing about the amount of time that went in, how many times they have to be touched, how much work that the employees put in, the attention to detail, it is more than worth the actual price. Once we were through over in the topiary, we made our way over to the greenhouses that housed their camellia collection. And in Cairo, Georgia, there are over 55,000 camellias. Yes, 55,000 varying varieties. One of my most favorite parts of the tour was when we went to observe the rose propagation. I am a rose lover, so it fascinated me to see how some of the roses that end up in our homes do. They use a combination of soil as well as rice husk to propagate. In order to maintain the moisture, they use the rice husks. That's that brown thing you see on top of the actual plants. Here are some plants that were cut that day that will be refrigerated until they're ready to be processed. About 4-inch pieces is what is used. Once they are cut, they'll be kept refrigerated until it's time for them to be propagated. Now, as I stated before, Monrovia prides itself on being very efficient, Six Sigma, and so they have different propagation station. Each person is completely set up with all that they would need in order to complete their actual job. So there's minimal running around, so there's less wear and tear on the employee and less workplace injury. So it's a very efficient use of time and space, but also it's cost effective. Another thing that we were able to see is their investment in automation. Automation in that it saves time, it saves money, and it gets the job done. It is also safer. These little robots are helping to space the boxwood plants with precision. They can be programmed from a distance, and then there's a yellow tape on the ground, and with that yellow tape, they're able to find themselves and operate using GPS coordinates. It was very, very fascinating and a look into the future, as it were. And what was interesting is we went to the next section, which is all boxwoods as far as the eyes could see. And it was another machine that actually helps to prune the boxwoods to precision. We then went to the greenhouses that housed their collection of Mandevilla, where we were taught how they use beneficial insects to help with pest control. In one example given, they showed how they use beneficial mites in order to control their population of spider mites, thereby reducing their needs for pesticides. From there, we went and looked at the Huchera collection, the coral bells. It was fantastic. We've come to the end of our tour, and I want to thank you for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing. Until next time, happy gardening.